Leadership Stories. I'm back with a different guest today. Apologies, I had to change from the 6 o'clock start to 6:30. I won't tell you the reasons. It's just pure madness. Anyhow, today I have a wonderful guest, Jackie Grant, whose profile you can check on LinkedIn. Jackie does amazing things in the area of health, but she's also a community activist, a community leader who wears many hats. So I'm going to not introduce her myself because I don't want to do her injustice. I would rather she introduce herself. So I hope you enjoy today's conversation. I say conversation, it's not really an interview because it's nicer when we are having a conversation. And please feel free to ask us any questions via the chat feature. And if you're not watching now, you can always watch it on replay on my LinkedIn profile and also via my YouTube channel, which some of you are very familiar with now. So without much ado, I'm going to invite my lovely guest.
Hello, Mamora.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much, Jackie. So excited to have you here. I was a little bit worried that things were getting a little bit too complex and I might have lost you. All down to fault of mine. One day I might have the courage and be vulnerable enough to explain. But anyhow, we're here now. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Good, great. So while the rest of the world has on a Friday night goes out and does stuff, we're here live talking about community leadership. Introduce yourself, my lovely.
So I'm Jackie Grant. I'm the chair of Waltham Forest Women's Network. I'm also a menopause coach, and I just love what I do.
It's obvious you love what you do, and I see all that energy as well when I am on LinkedIn and I see some of the stuff that you post, as well as no doubt you're on several social media platforms as well. I've heard so much about the menopause cafes, and I've also heard or know quite well about the Waltham Forest Women's Network, a great organization, and also very diverse. So, what has your journey been like, I would say, since COVID?
Since COVID, right. Okay. So it's been good that, everyone's coming out, connecting with each other, actually doing events that we've been doing to get women back out there and, not just connecting with each other, but actually building relationship with each other. And that's been really, really nice to see, really, in the borough. And, it's been, I say about Menopause and Women's Health Cafe, which is going to get renamed to Women's Health Cafe. And it's, when someone says that they live just down the same road as someone, I chuckle because it's like, how did you not know that that person lived there? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's really nice when women connect and they're just down the same road and they say, oh, we must meet up. We must meet up for coffee. So it's really great.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I think there's a huge power in solidarity, as we saw during COVID. But also, I'm thinking about like just generally like all the different activities you get involved in. It takes a lot of courage to be leading, and I know that you're. Well, I won't say you're new, but you're in the chair's role at the Women's Network, but you're also part of the VCS leadership group. I'm going to ask you about that later. But like, what is it like? What have you found challenging?
What, with being a chair?
Yeah, the chair's role.
What's been challenging? What's been challenging is because we are a group of women who are volunteering, and so it's been really challenging because people have got their own lives to be getting on with, and actually getting people to pull together. It's been really difficult to do that, and actually get things off the ground. I mean, I'll always make sure that it happens, you know,
You're a
but
doer.
yeah, but it's just about getting people to pull together and actually see the value in working together, and how that is going to, you know, make Waltham Forest Women's Network, you know, really flourish.
Well, what makes you like, what's your opinion? What's the reason why, you know, these different groups don't always have the best, like, you know, people that have availability in terms of time joining them at that board level? Why do you think that is?
I mean, the thing is, yeah, is that sometimes people join something and think that they have the capacity to do it. And then when, you know, things start coming up, you notice that they don't actually have the time to do these things. And I mean, a lot of the things that we have to do are in the daytime, which, you know, I've got my own business. I have the ability to move around things and be able to, you know, get to stuff. Whereas if someone's working a full-time job, it can be difficult for them to, you know, actually have the time, because a lot of the things are in the daytime. Do you know what I mean? There's small amount of things, activities that happen in the evening or at the weekends.
Do you find that perhaps, even though you're in a leadership role, and sometimes I have felt like people are telling me I don't know how to lead, or that's not the chair's role, but do you find yourself sometimes filling those gaps?
What do you mean, fill in the gaps of?
As in, you know, like the chair's role is very much to be strategic, right?
Yes.
But in order to be strategic, you need to be given the time away from being operational and just
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
And like, if you haven't got enough people doing, then, you know, I wonder if I felt like that sometimes. I don't know what your experience has been like.
No, exactly. You are totally right. You know, I am too deep in the operational, which makes it difficult to stand back and see what's, you know, actually going on and how we can develop further. So, you know, with me doing things, it means that I can't do all the planning, make sure that we've got a clear business plan, clear vision about where we're meant to be going, because I'm doing things that, you know, other people should be doing, really. Yeah.
That really annoys me because, like, I know as a non-executive director, say, for example, for private sector or somewhere, I'd be getting paid to do that. You know, to think. I'd be getting paid to manage strategically. Whereas in our sector, capacity is so limited. You know, you got to have all the right policies in place to get the funding in. You got to have all the infrastructure in place before you get the funding. But actually, you need the money to do all of those things.
Exactly. You're so right. It's just like thinking about going for charitable status, and it's like, okay, if I go for that, then we have to get trustees, and then what are the steps then? Those people, are they going to be committed to follow through with everything that they're meant to be doing? So, and then the reason why we need charities board status is so that we can go for more funding elsewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? Not having to stick to Waltham Forest for the funding.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have more of a wider opportunity to generate money, income, so that you can do all the things that you could do. I mean, I've noticed how the Women's Network have throughout the pandemic and even beyond. And I think last year your organization was recognized by the local authority, wasn't it, for your work? Tell us a bit about that then. Let's really shine the light on that.
So we actually got 2 awards. We got one from Adult Education for my Menopause and Women's Health Cafe, and then we got the Pride of what was it? The
Pride of Waltham Forest.
Yeah, Pride of Waltham Forest, but it's Waltham Forest for all. I was trying to remember the actual category that we got. So we got Waltham Forest for all. And we got that in recognition of the work that we've done online and offline with women, and being such a diverse group of women, and all the events and everything that happened over COVID, as well as, you know, having the Women's Health Cafe.
Yeah, no, and that's fantastic, because I feel like with the Women's Network being so diverse, you manage to engage organizations that the local authority would normally not be able to. And I think you well deserved that recognition. I'm just so happy and pleased that the Women's Network got that recognition. But sometimes I find it a little bit ironic as well when, like, you get an organization that's diverse and funders say they want to fund organizations that are 80% and over, led by people from BME backgrounds, but then we're still pushing to make it like completely even. Are there any organizations out there that are like that? What we try and, you know, it's almost like we inspire to something that doesn't exist, and there's a reason why it doesn't exist. Yeah, I feel like if a diverse organization does well, they're doing well for a reason. Let's not knock it back.
Yes, definitely.
I don't know how, I mean, I'm not like, it's just my opinion, but like you might have a different opinion about, like, what do you think, like some of the groups that are more BME focused, that they tend to then not have a lot of white people on the committee?
Well,
Controversial.
I think what it is if you don't see someone that looks like you, you're less likely to get involved with anything, can't you? You'd rather see a committee that has got even like one or two people that look like you, because that's what's going to make you feel safe, which, you know, it comes down to that safe belonging, you know, that kind of way. So that's how I see it anyway.
Now you just put it in black and white, and it makes absolute sense. It's that whole thing about visibility. I was earlier today, I was reading a report from our local authority about the number of women that are from ethnic minority backgrounds, the percentage that are in the highest roles. And I found it quite insightful. And then recently, I think I posted about the NCVO data research that came out from the foundation, the social movement. And then also more recently, the civil society produced data. And like, we wonder why. I mean, what you just said seems like so obvious. I'm lost for words. I don't know, Jackie. I just sometimes feel like some things are so straightforward and easy. The solution is right in front of us.
Yeah.
So why is it so complex then? Why are we making it so complex?
I got no idea why it's just so complex. I mean, the thing is about a leadership role, and a lot of the time, I mean, I must admit, I've worked in health and social care before I became a personal trainer, and I worked in various organizations, and I was the only Black person there. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you know, okay, you can see someone else being like, you know, so I took quite a long time to become a manager. And when I did, you know, I was the only, you know, Black female. So, I mean, it's funny. It's funny. I was talking to this with my client the other day, and she was saying, well, she's the only Black person, and she's top in Tesco's. She's like one of the directors. So it's still going on. It's still going on. And I don't know how to change that, apart from trying to empower women to go for those roles, or if you don't want to be going for those roles, you know, developing yourself, doing some personal development, and actually looking at what do you want, what do you really want, and how can we support them to go for those roles? Because sometimes it's just because you haven't got someone that's saying to you, you can do that. Do you know what I mean? And or someone that's mentoring you to go for that role. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, though, for my 30 odd years in this sector, Jackie, I've met very few people that have motivated me in that way or supported me in that way. You tapped on something really important, personal development. I think when I started going on a journey of personal development, that's when I started tapping my own inner champion. And then when I discovered that, I started also to learn to ask.
Exactly that.
Because I'd never in my entire career ever asked anyone to nominate me. I'd never nominate myself. I'd feel too embarrassed. And I think one of my contacts on LinkedIn, has said it a couple of times, if you wait around to be noticed, you may never get noticed.
Exactly that. Yes.
It's almost like you've got to fight for it. And I guess this is perhaps what is happening a little bit. Maybe I'm just being a bit dramatic here, but I'm thinking about the VCS leadership group. So back about a few years back, I was involved in the CVS tender that went out. And, the tender didn't go to organizations in the sector. In fact, it went to outside the borough. And, some of us knew that it was going to be at risk because the organization that won the tender didn't really know the landscape. And I'm just sick and tired of this happening all the time, where you have the knowledge, you have the expertise, and that gets tapped into for free by people who are getting paid to deliver that service.
Yes, I get exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So then, now, for the last over a year, how long have you been part of the VCS leadership group?
It's probably coming up to a year now. Yeah, it's probably a year.
Okay, so I've probably been there just a little bit longer, maybe, or the same time, or maybe actually less than you. But the VCS is the Voluntary Community Sector Leadership Group, which is just like 9 different organizations from Waltham Forest have come together, and the CEOs or the chairs of those organizations are representatives of that group. And we have a VCS development coordinator, that's Rebecca Thomas, who's been funded by the money is NHS funding. And obviously we've been on this journey to try and create some sort of an alliance. So we're actually working a little bit more united, cohesively, but also trying to contribute towards our local authorities' decision making as well, where some of us are representatives on some of the groups. Now, what's your journey been like on that? How have you felt like on that journey? I mean, you don't obviously know everybody in that group well. Did you know them before?
No, none of them. No.
You didn't know anyone?
Apart from you.
And what about Rebecca? No?
No.
So you kind of came into a little bit. I remember you coming into the meeting. What was your thinking? I can tell you that I was very confused. I didn't know what was going on, so it took me some time to get my head around it.
That's exactly what happened to me. I think the first meeting I went to, it was actually face to face, and it was at your organization's hub, and I was just kind of silently listening to what was going on to try and get my head around what was actually going on, because that was before Rebecca was in post. So they were looking for, how that role, they were looking at that role. So, yeah, I really was trying to get my head around what was going on initially.
So that obviously that contract is managed, just for anyone listening, when there's no umbrella or infrastructure organization within a particular borough, it means that in the absence of any CVS, it's really hard to coordinate voluntary organizations or charities to come together. So it's been quite tricky. And I think I think I've been passionate enough to remain around that table and part of that group, because I feel like in an unspoken way, and I know we've got development days and things coming up, but in an unspoken way, we all vision a better future for the voluntary sector. What's your feelings been like? Have you felt like I want to walk away?
No, I haven't. And actually, that last event that we had made it much more inspiring, you know, because there was a lot of people. Okay, we didn't have as many of the voluntary sector, I must admit, because I spoke to quite a lot of people, and there were people that were doing really innovative things that I hadn't met before. So that was really, really interesting. So to be able to have that time with people and actually have a bit of a connection more, to understand what they're delivering, how we can like work cohesively together, how we can share clients, you know, making sure that that person gets empowered into, you know, whatever they need. So that was a real, that made it seem so much more. And I think we probably need to meet more in person. I know it's only an hour, right? But I think that because we're on the Zoom thing, like, which gets on my nerves in the end anyway, it's like, you know, we really need to meet in person more, because that's how you build the relationship more with those people. And I think that it's kind of disconnected when you're, you know, just on the screen all the time.
No, I hear you. And I think as much as the whole idea of being online means that easy access and people not having the time to travel, etc., and because we're all working from different parts of the borough, but at the same time, I think you can't compare, you know, the feelings that come into face to face, and
exactly,
you know, so
exactly. And what did we do before? Before COVID, we would have traipsed wherever we had to traipse to. So, you know, I think that we kind of need to get back to that, because I don't feel connected to some of those people in that group because of that. Because I've mainly met them online. I think I've probably met them twice in person, and maybe at different, you know, that last event. And I think, you know, I see some of them at, you know, maybe different events around the borough, but that's, you know, you might say hi, but you're not getting connected properly with that person. So yeah, I really think that needs to change.
what do you think connects you to me?
Because I didn't even realize you were the the CEO. Remember when I used to do a class there? Do you know what I mean?
Now, let's not get controversial, because I'm going to turn around and ask you, why did you assume I wasn't the CEO?
Because you were getting involved. You were doing all kinds of things. Do you see what I mean? You were involved with your staff.
Yeah, and why shouldn't I be? That to
But
me, that's what leadership should be like.
exactly. That is what leadership should be, but not a lot of leaders do that. So do you see what I'm saying? So that was when I first met you, when I used to do that class in the hub. So that brought already a connection in the first place. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we already saw each other, and I remember not being able to get my car in and all some craziness, and you sorted it out. Just come around the back, you know. So yeah.
That's why I work in this sector, because I like a bit of activism, the operation side of things, but at the same time, I understand the real value is being able to think, especially think differently.
Yes.
And that's the thing, like, you can, when you're doing leadership, Jackie, you can either watch somebody else and follow them, and you know what the current status quo is. I don't agree with it. I hope you don't, but then I could be wrong. Or you just be the leader that you could be. Think of, because the way I've always led my teams has been the way I was never led, and I always wanted to be led. You know, I wanted someone to, like, you know, mentor me, coach me, and they never did. You know, I never found a mentor or a coach. It was more about, you know, job tasks,
Targets.
objectives, and tasks. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because having, you know, worked in, you know, the voluntary sector for a long time, and I think what happens is people get lost in the targets and forget about the people. And that's what starts to change the environment and the landscape of where you work, because that's what the focus is sometimes, you know, from senior management, and then that gets brought down to everyone else. Do you see what I mean?
yeah, the ripple effect. I believe that something I learned about myself was, and it is always inward for me, and always personal development. Something I learned about myself is I go quite fast. So I also learned with that, I'm gonna have, if you're an extrovert, I'm gonna overwhelm the hell out of
Yeah.
every single introvert around me.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I developed the habit. When I learned that about myself, I started to develop the habit of asking them, like, am I going too fast? Just tell me. Just tell me. Don't worry about, like, you know, you're not going to upset me. Because that's the other thing with people having high levels of empathy. Sometimes they won't say or speak up because they feel the emotions, and they worry about stressing somebody, but that individual stress could be totally unrelated,
Yeah.
might have nothing to do with work, yet they might not have the courage to bring it up. So that's why, like, I'm always thinking, okay, we really never know as much about what's really going on in another person's life. And so I have to ask, am I going too slow? Am I going? But then I have extroverts in my team who go very fast.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay? And then I have to say, slow down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to travel at the same speed
Yeah.
to succeed. We will never succeed if we're all going at different
Yeah.
paces.
Definitely. And the thing is that so certain people have certain attributes. Yeah. So I remember I did this with a couple of my teams when I used to be in my last organization, and we did Carl Jung, you know, about pick the colors, and we did about, so that we understood what colors people were. Do you know what I mean? And obviously the thing is that you can be a color at work, which I was a red at work, but at home I'm more a blue. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm more a blue. I'm chilled, I'm calm, you know what I mean? But at work I'm a red.
And why is that? Is it because of your position, or is it because
Exactly.
you feel you're expected to be a red?
I think that's a good question. I think the red just comes out on me when I'm in that, you know, when I was in that position. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's really interesting, Jackie. So did you start your working career in the public sector or private sector? Like,
No, I started by working Centrepoint. So I started when I was about 21, Centrepoint. I did 2 years volunteering there with young people. That's where I started. So really, I was saying to someone, was it yesterday or today, that I've done 21 years in health and social care. So I worked at Centrepoint, I worked at St Mungo's, I worked at the Passage Day Centre. I worked for CRI, which is now Change, Grow, Live. I worked at AdAction. So I worked in a lot of voluntary sector organisations, quite big ones, really. Passage Day Centre was probably about the smallest one that I worked in.
You've got a wealth of knowledge there in terms of the sector. The reason why I asked that question is because I remember when someone said to me, Munwara, no matter how fast I go, I feel like I can't keep up with you. And it actually brought me down to like a reality check for me. It was a reality check. And also I realized when I worked for Camden Council, because I was working for Camden Council for about 8 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And I was in the youth work department, the youth service, and I was in youth service part-time for about 8 years, but then I did 2 years in the chief exec's department. And that probably in a lot of ways shaped my professionalism, in the sense that it was very target driven. Like in terms of benefits, housing benefit and council tax benefit, so I was an advisor there. It's probably one of the, the best local authorities. And I know why, because they've got these targets. And so I had 6 months of training in that job. And after 6 months, I wanted out.
I'm not surprised. Camden was my last borough to work in.
It's a lovely borough. It's a lovely
borough, but they're too tough, man. They're too, it's tough in that borough.
It was really tough. And like I moved around a lot. I went to lots of different youth provisions all over Camden, including like Tower Hamlets and stuff. But like the chief exec's department was the one that did it for me. And then a year later, I moved into a women's refuge. But it's very interesting how we do things. Like I remember when somebody said to me, "Oh, Munwara, relax." And I was like, no, we need a checklist and we need to do this and we need to do that. And I knew that I gave people reassurance in that sense, because they would be like, oh, but she's professional. She knows, she knows how to cover risks, etc., safeguarding. But at the same time, I never enjoyed anything myself.
Right.
I wasn't able to. And so I always refused some of the leadership roles because I didn't want to be like that.
Yes. No, I totally get you. It's you want to be the leader that you'd want to have. That's what you're looking for, really. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's, I probably had a couple in my time of working in, voluntary sector. So yeah, it's interesting.
What would you say, what are your reasons for working in the sector now, to staying in this sector, even though it has its challenges?
The thing is, right, we're kind of a small organization, yeah. So this is nice. This is what, this is what I left a massive organization, and it was 10 years this month that I had left my job. So this is quite nice to work in a small organization that's focused on working with women, which is, who I've been working with since I started my own business. So I feel that seeing this develop into something else before I move on will be amazing.
Fantastic. And what do you think the challenges are going to be lying ahead for you?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges ahead for me in terms of trying to make sure that I've got a committee that has the ability to do that operational work and be seen in the borough. Because right now, people only see me.
Mm.
So that's a big challenge. And the other challenge is that because obviously we had that worker before, which probably gave us that more known in the borough, because that person was doing that, and we haven't got that right now. So that's going to be a challenge again, to try and keep up all those relationships that she built, or otherwise it's almost like it was a waste to have that post. Do you see what I'm saying? Trying to keep those all those relationships still going, and moving to get that charitable status. I think that's going to be another challenge. And the other challenge is to make sure that we've still got enough funding to continue until we get something, charitable status.
No, I hear you.
Mm.
What do you think the challenges are in our borough for the voluntary sector?
Okay.
You can't say money. You can't say money because we know that.
Sorry?
You can't say money.
Oh, right. You ask me a question and then you say I can't say something.
You can't say money.
Okay, so what are the challenges? The challenges are that there's one of the challenges is that there's a clear flow of a client's journey within the borough, I think, and also that it shouldn't just be that the organisations know the organisations. It should be that the wider public understand what's available in the borough, not just if you need it at that time, but before you need it. Do you see what I mean? I think if people have an understanding of what's available, and that also creates the fact that, if someone's neighbor, for instance, has some problem, then that person will know, okay, you can do this. Do you see what I mean? So it's about having that clear pathway that everyone in the borough understands what's going on, and not just the few people that are interested in it.
I think I agree with you. I think you make a really important point that, we maybe crisis made us realize we could be reactive, but just maybe the things that we put into place during COVID and during crisis, we should be thinking in the same way. No.
Yes.
It kind of feels like we sometimes live like nothing's ever going to go wrong.
Yes.
And the client journey, what do you mean by that? Explain that to me, because
so in terms of, like, if someone needs benefits, right? I know they've got this whole thing on the website and this and that, but that's a bit clunky. But I think that if there was something, say, some kind of map somewhere that showed you, like, okay, if you need benefits, you go to this place, and this is what's going to happen for you. This is the journey that you're going to take in order for this to be complete, for instance. Or if you're homeless, this is the journey you might take. So it's almost like a care pathway for individuals. I just don't see that at the moment.
Why do you think? Is it because, like, it's just things are moving too fast, or is it because, like, who's responsible? We don't know who's responsible to
probably that one, the latter. Who's responsible to? Because the thing is, is that we want to work together as a VCS, but we also want to be working together with the council, with NHS. We want there to be an integrated, joined up situation happening. So,
absolutely.
So that when someone comes into one part of the care pathway, whatever that bit is, that it's a joined up integrated care pathway for that person.
And that's why I'm so glad you're on the VCS leadership group.
Oh, good.
Because that's what NHS England, the ICB, I think the local authority is also trying to achieve. And we want to achieve it too. But I think in all of this, sometimes it can feel a bit like we don't know what we're talking about, or, like a little bit disregarded in some ways.
Yeah. No.
So and my view of that is like, the best culture that any local authority or any business or any leader can demonstrate is one where they share autonomy. If you're not sharing autonomy, you're holding all the power. Your people are never going to believe that you think they're worthy, that you actually trust them. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm so opinionated, which I know I am. This is based on my experience of like working with the local authority for so many years. I've been working in this borough for what, 13 years now.
Right.
And when I joined the community hub, it wasn't called the community hub, it was called the Asian Centre.
Yes, I remember.
And then there was 2. I joined. And now there's 13 of us. And it's growing and it's evolving. And, like our team, like at the hub, are amazing at what they do. But they also feel that they are worthy and they bring something to the table, and their ideas and their views are not going to be disregarded, and that they are trusted. So I feel like there's several parts moving, but sometimes the parts are so disjointed, and we start the integration halfway in the middle, and like I'm in like 2 or 3 meetings, I'm still trying to figure out like, okay, where are we at? Even with the best will.
Yes.
So what would you like to see happen for the sector, just like, the voluntary sector? Or if you had funders listening to you right now, what would you say to them?
If I had funders listen to me, what would I say? Gosh, that's a difficult question, Mamwara. Give all the money to voluntary sector because we do it best.
We do it best, but how do they reach us if there's no CVS? They're going to look for an agency or an organization to hand that money over to, who would have the right system, fair systems, to make sure the smaller groups get the money. And this is a big challenge for us for that reason. If you think about, it's the same pattern where the government might pledge some money. Then, like I've seen it happen, that money that they pledge would go to National Lottery. National Lottery would then have to distribute it. And sometimes it's really hard because National Lottery's programs have meant that, a small organization can only apply for the Awards for All, which was up to 10,000. They've increased it.
And the wait time is 4 months at the moment.
Yeah, I think because things are changing, they've changed their systems, and I think they're going through a transition period, because it's very recent that they announced that they're going to extend how much, so you can apply for more than 10,000.
Right.
And also you can apply for up to 2 years.
Oh.
So when that they're trying to change their systems, obviously that means it has an impact on their staffing. It has an impact on the system they use online. The process, the systems change is a lot more harder to get through than like just you and I having conversations and trying to make change.
Yeah. No, definitely. Okay.
Well, thank you, National Lottery, for doing that. You might actually be able to. You didn't say that, Jackie. All you had to say was say thank you for making that change, because it means they're listening to us, right?
It does mean it's very good. Like 2 years, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's so much better, because I mean, the short term, it means that you're constantly, as soon as you get it, you're thinking, well, what's going to be next after that? You know.
Exactly. Look, we've been talking for ages. Is there any last minute thing you want to say so that we can round up?
Okay, any last things? Well, no, I haven't got any last things, Manwara. We've talked quite a lot tonight, and thank you so much for having me as Spotlight tonight.
Thank you for trusting me to have you, and especially to ask you all those hard questions. I've enjoyed it, and I've learned a lot about you, Jackie, just this evening.
Thank you.
And I hope that our audience, whoever watches this on replay or on my YouTube channel, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. I am not in it to make millions, but I really want to help spread awareness. So the more people see it, obviously the message spreads. And I will continue to have these conversations. And I've got another guest coming next week. So thank you, Jackie. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.
And you.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.